case you couldn't tell. Oh,
All right,
thanks.
there we go. We're going to be recorded. Yay. So we're sharing a computer because my husband and I are currently staying in a little RV park that has on the edge of the villages, but it has very poor Wi-Fi. And instead of sitting out in a rocking chair, I'm at Liz's house. So this is great. So thanks for joining me. This is actually a talk that I give for Rhodes Scholar. We do a program. Hit that okay. What's that? There's this program, Lake Erie Birding the Islands and Shores, has been offered for 25 years or so up on the Bass Islands in Western Lake Erie. I've been helping on and off for about 20 years. I used to help for a day, two days, 3 days, maybe. 2 or 3 years ago, our main bird bander, who always gave the warbler talk, said, I'm done. I'm done giving this talk. Somebody else has to give it. So I took it over. I've revamped it a bit, and this is what you've got to hear from me about tonight. So yes, I'm involved with Rhodes Scholar. If you're at all interested, they offer 3 separate weeks in May for spring migration, and then 2 weeks in September for fall migration. Fall migration isn't quite as dramatic as the spring migration can be, but it's still just as good. So put this is my commercial. The other thing that happens at about the same time is the biggest week in American birding, which these are what you see on the screen is last year's dates. This year it is May 9th through the 18th. This will be the 15th year that they've held this festival. It's it's the biggest festival in America for birding, this 10-day festival, and we consider ourselves the Warbler Capital of the world. So it's a great place to come and see warblers. So why is Ohio important? Why Northwest Ohio? Give you a little geographical lesson here. Here's the map of Ohio. If you look in the top left-hand corner where you see Toledo, I live about 40 minutes, 30 minutes southwest of Toledo. But all along this western edge of Lake Erie, the glaciers came through. The last glaciation area came through and deposited beach ridges along that edge of Lake Erie in the western basin, creating great habitat, marshy, swampy areas. There's a lot of this land that's been protected, state, federal, county. The 2 national wildlife refuges are up there, actually 3 if you go out on the lake, several state parks. There's a lot of insects, aquatic insects that have come out in the spring. Lake Erie was pretty dirty for a while, but we have 2 introduced non-native mussels, the zebra mussel and the quagga mussels, which have filtered the lake and have cleaned up the lake. It's crazy. They're not very good on water intake valves, which causes cities to have issues, but the lake is cleaner than it's been. And so these insects that have an aquatic phase, midges, mayflies, what have you, all emerge or begin to emerge about the time of spring migration. So the songbirds come up, they funnel up through Ohio, they're kind of coming up with the southwest winds, and they don't cross the lake during the day because there are raptors out that may eat them. So they land along this west lake marsh area and they feed all day long. They've been flying a long time. They've expended a lot of their fat stores. And so they need to refill and get another boost so they can, these are the birds that are going north to nest and breed in Canada, the northern states, Michigan, Minnesota, what have you, and or into the Canadian area for breeding purposes. So we get to take advantage of their stop off as they rest and refill on their food. This area was considered or is considered by the National Audubon Society. It's been designated as a globally important bird area. And it is, let me tell you. So in this talk, we don't normally get a total of 40 species, but I'm going to talk about 40 plus one that have come to Ohio, not every year, but the bulk of them come through every year, which is great. We'll be able to see photos. I'll give a little blurb about each one of them. And there are 3 that have multiple races. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then 2 that have hybrids can have hybrids. So first, what's a warbler? Well, what's the jizz? That's usually what, as us longtime birders say, what's the general impression that you're getting from these birds that you're seeing? Size, shape, is it big? Is it small? Most warblers, as you know, are small. They're active. Is it feeding in the top of the trees? Is it feeding in the lower midsection? Is it feeding on the ground? Is it feeding along the bark? Those sorts of things. Does it have wing bars? Some have 1, some have 2, some have none. Does it have a rump color? That can be important. Field marks, foot color, that comes in. We'll talk about that in a bit. Tail bobbers. There are 5 warblers that are tail bobbers, warbler species. And what's the song? Some of the songs are pretty easy to learn. Some of them are a little tricky, and you have to refresh yourself every year. Now, you got to make this fun. So there are these comics that you can find online that help you learn bird songs. A couple of these, or a few of these, are warblers. The top left is the yellow warbler that says, "Sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet." You know, you put words to them so that you can remember what's doing what. Let's see. The black-throated blue, top middle, "I'm so lazy." Psst, 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 psst. Yeah, just got to make it fun. So, okay, so the spring migration in Ohio actually comes through in what we've termed waves. The main sponsor for the biggest week in American birding is the Black Swamp Bird Observatory, which is located up near McGee Marsh. That's where everybody likes to go, McGee Marsh. And they have been banding songbirds spring, fall, sometimes a little bit in the summer, for over 35 years. So they have tons of data on what's coming through when. And they've determined that there are these 3 main waves. One is mid to late April to early May. The biggest one is this second wave that's the first couple of weeks of May. The third wave is the last week of May. Now, there's overlap, and in certain species, the male may come in the first wave, the female may come in the second wave. But still, it's a good way to organize the birds as to when they're coming through. The overflight species, we'll get to those last. Those are ones that shouldn't be there, but for some reason, whether there was some strong south winds or somebody got off course, and they show up. But we'll talk about those in a little bit. So these birds are, let me back up. So they're migrating from Central and South America, where they've wintered, and Southern Florida. Some of them winter down here. And as I said, they're following their food source, which are bugs, insects, and yeah, there's a fair amount of, I'm looking at my notes. Sorry, there's a fair amount of overlap. Okay, so like I said, I put this talk together for my Rhodes Scholar program that I help with. And this screen is kind of posted for them. The chance of those individuals seeing all these birds the week that they're here, the week that they're at the Rhodes Scholar. The numbering is based on the ABA numbering system, the ABA codes, the American Birding Association. And every species of bird in your location has a ABA code, how likely it is that you're going to see them. The codes number 1 and 2 are regularly occurring birds. The first one obviously is, you're going to stumble over them. The second one, might have some range limits, but you're likely to see them. The third one is more of a rare bird, but it may show up here. You got a 50-50 chance. 4 is a casual bird. It shows up ever so often or during that time period. And the 5 is considered accidental. Now, we'll get to those. In our case, it's a buy your lottery ticket thing, because if you see a number 5 bird, that's pretty exciting. Okay, let's go to the first wave. This one has been down here all winter. I've been hearing these guys sing all winter. These are great pine warblers. This is one of the largest warbler that we have, and in Ohio, it's one of the first ones to come through. So it's starting to show up. It's maybe a tad early, but in April, we start looking for pine warblers because they're, like I said, they're one of the first ones to come through. It winters almost entirely in the southeast U.S., thus being one of the first. It's already here. It doesn't have to cross any oceans or anything. It prefers to forage in pine trees. Of course, you go out into these nice pine stands, these longleaf pines, and you'll hear them singing. And it's one of the few birds or warblers that will sing year round. Most of the warblers will do their chip calls during the off season, but this one will sing year round. It's also unique in the warbler world because it will come to feeders and it'll eat seed and suet. So keep your feeders filled in the wintertime down here and you'll find them, hopefully. And the other cool thing about pine warblers is this is a nice male, this one that's illustrated here. There are so many color combinations or color variations of this based on age, male, female, juvenile. I went to Chinsaket about a month ago to see the Scots Oriole, and we saw so many pine warblers in all their different plumages. It was a great place to study pine warblers, let me tell you. Here's another one of your friends, the palm warbler. This is the major tail bobber. You don't even have to put your binoculars on this guy if you see that motion. Like I said, one of the 5 warbler species that bobs its tails. There are 2 races. This is one that has 2 separate races. This is the common one that we see here and that we see up mainly in Ohio is the Western race. There's an all yellow, it doesn't have the white belly. There's an all yellow race that's the Eastern coastal race. And we see a few of those I've seen a few of it here in Florida. It's a very common bird, widespread nester in the northern boreal forest, sphagnum bog areas, and it has another bird that has a dry trill type of song. I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan a couple of summers ago, and I heard this song that I didn't have any idea what it was. I turned Merlin on. It was the palm warbler. I said, "Oh my gosh, yeah." And like I said, it winters in Florida. The other one that's a common one down here in the wintertime is the yellow-rumped warbler. This is a nice, beautiful male that's in its finest plumage. It's got that nice yellow rump, yellow shoulder patches, a little bit of yellow on its head. This one was, there are two races. When I was learning, when I took ornithology in college, they had just combined the two races. The eastern race is the myrtle warbler. It has that nice white throat. The western race is the Audubon's warbler. It has a yellow throat and a little other slightly different plumage. But in the mid 70s, they determined that they were the same species, just two separate races. So the lumpers and splitters did their lumping that time and combined these as yellow warblers or yellow rumped warblers. This one is another one that is migrating through and nests in the northern coniferous forest. Most of the birds that migrate through Ohio nest in the coniferous boreal forest. So I'll be a little redundant, but that's okay. Here's a nice female in her breeding plumage, not as bright as the male, but still it's got that white throat that you can see and resembles the male somewhat. Here's what you see all winter long. Yes, this is the winter plumage for the yellow-rumped warbler. Just a little hint of that yellow shoulder and hardly anything else, but chips. Oh my gosh, it chips all winter long. Primarily winters in the southeast US. Yeah, learn the chip song after, or chip call, because you'll say, oh, that's a palm, that's a yellow rump. They're both chipping. Now this warbler is unique in that it can survive in the winter in the north. We have a few that we can find in Ohio because it eats poison ivy berries. Not a plant that I'm a big fan of, but if the birds like the berries, that's good. Now in the New England area, it will eat the waxy bayberries. So this one does have a little bit of a wider wintering population. Not a whole lot, but we do see some of them in Ohio. The black and white warbler. This is the nuthatch of the warbler world. It has its unique feeding style. It's just like a nuthatch's. It feeds up and down the trunks and branches of the trees, looking for bugs in the cracks and crevices. Has this cool song. It has a very loud chip call, but the song sounds like a squeaky wheel. Squeaky, 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 up and down and up and down and up and down. But yeah, nests on the ground in mixed deciduous forests. So this could nest in Ohio, or this does nest in Ohio. It doesn't go farther up into the pine forests. It nests in the green leafy, yeah, the deciduous trees, yeah, in those forests. This is a male. Lots of black and white. The female is a little more subdued than the male. All right, another one that's going up into the northern coniferous forest is the black-throated green. This is a nice male, big black bib and throat area there. The female has a hint of that, but not as bold and bright as the male. Couple of wing bars, olive colored back, and the white cheek patch. Actively feeds along the tree edge and is going up into the, like I said, the coniferous forest. I was out birding yesterday and I thought for sure we heard one of these, but then northern parulas were doing a variety of their buzzy calls too. And it was not, it was the parula. But its call is kind of a zz-zoozy, zz-zoozy. It's a buzzy, another one of those buzzy things. All right. Where am I? Second. Oh yeah, okay. We're gonna go to the next wave. There's a lot of birds in this group. So what I did to put them in order, I went to the BSBO data. They have tons of information on their website on these birds. And I took the range of dates as to when these birds came through, and I kind of ordered them based on first to last. And yeah, so there's a bunch here. Let's jump in. Cerulean warbler. This one's got a number 4 because it rarely makes it up. We're right on the edge of its range for northern Ohio. It likes mature deciduous forests, and it likes to be near water. It's a high treetop forager. For Ohioans, we tend to go to southern Ohio in late April to catch all these birds as they're first coming in, and to catch the birds that may not come all the way up to northern Ohio. The cerulean is one of those. Beautiful bird, but it sings, you're cracking your neck to see these guys because they're singing from the way, way, way top of the trees. Beautiful blue, pure white underneath with a little bit of a collar around it. Just a lovely bird. We have seen them. We did see them in Canada a couple of times, but that would be considered probably an overshoot. So the orange-crowned warblers do come through. They're a little rarer in the east part of the eastern U.S. We do see them here. I've seen a handful here. Very drab, dull-colored birds. They're more common in places like Texas. I've seen them there a lot, but they breed up in Canada as well, foraging in shrubs and low brush. They're not necessarily way up in the treetops. It does have a bit of an orange crown, but you rarely see that. You can catch just a hint of it in the picture on the right. That was our bird bander had one in hand so that we could all get a close-up look and see that little bit of an orange crown. Nashville warblers. These are really common coming into Ohio, migrating through. They breed in the northern coniferous bog areas. They nest on the ground in second growth brushy areas. They have that prominent white eye ring, the gray head, olive back, and yellow all the way up to the bill. It has a little bit of a white patch, excuse me, right about where their legs and their rear is. You can kind of make a mistake if you're looking for another warbler, which I'll talk about later, the Connecticut. People get excited when they see a Nashville, and then it turns its head and it's got that nice yellow throat instead of the gray head for the Connecticut's. But Nashville also has a little bit of a rufous, rusty colored on the top of its head, and again, you can see that when you're banding the birds in hand. The blue-winged warbler. This one is just lovely. It has a beautiful call too. Bzz, bzz. Bzz, bzz. Yeah, I joke, but it's a distinct call, and when you hear that call, you're like, ah, there's a blue wing somewhere. Nice yellow top and underneath with the bluish back, the wings, the little bit of olive and some wing bars, and that black line through its eye. This is a lovely male. They're a ground nester in the deciduous deciduous habitat. So they would nest in northern Ohio, in Ohio area, which is nice. Now, this one and the next one, the golden wing warbler. This is a number 4. We do see these, but they're a little less common. That's partly mainly because the blue-winged warbler is pushing these guys out of their habitat. So the golden wings are losing habitat from the blue wings. It has a lovely call too. Bee buzz buzz. Bzz, bzz. I was on the boardwalk at McGee a couple of years ago, and birding with our group, and I heard the call and I got really excited. And I said, "Oh my gosh, there's a golden wing somewhere." And this young woman in front of me turned around and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just played the call for my boyfriend so that he'd know what it sounded like." And I laughed and said, "Oh my gosh, well, you gave the rest of us heart attacks because this is a bird that everyone wants to see." It's another ground nester. It prefers second growth hardwoods. It nests up in the coniferous forest, but it also will nest in along the Appalachian Mountains in that same sort of habitat. But as I mentioned, the blue wings are moving into those locations and out competing with the golden wings. In fact, last year, ABA labeled this to bring attention to it, labeled it as the 2024 Bird of the Year. So golden wings and blue wings are the two birds that hybridize. And they hybridize so regularly that they've named both of the hybrid birds. The first one is a Brewster's. This is the Brewster's warbler. You can see a little bit of that blue wing characteristics and the golden wing. This is actually considered a first generation hybrid where you have actually the blue wing and the golden wing crossing. That differs on the next one. We actually saw one of these at McGee Marsh in about 15 years ago. There was one on the boardwalk. They show up. They're extremely rare. So it's a number 5, buy a lottery ticket kind of thing. The other hybrid is the Lawrence's warbler. This one is a back cross. So you've got a Brewster's and it's fertile. Usually hybrids are not. It's fertile and it hybridizes with either a blue wing or a golden wing and generates or produces this Lawrence's hybrid bird. Interesting stuff. Yeah. This was obviously one that someone banded because it's in hand. We see reports of these now and then, but yeah, they're more rare than the others. All right. Northern water thrush. This one is a common one in Ohio. It's a very, very loud singer, beautiful song, but it's like a ventriloquist. It's so hard to find. It nests in deciduous forests, so nests in Ohio, where there are swamps and bogs. It likes standing water, but it will sing and you can't find it because it's echoing all around and you can eventually find it, but it's a really tough one to locate. This is one of the ones that's also a tail bobber. It actually kind of moves its whole body, but it's a tail bobber sachet type of thing. It has some dots on its throat. We'll talk about the Louisiana later. But there are a few distinguishing characteristics between them. The northern water thrush, but for Ohio, is pretty common. Yellow warblers are all over the place in northern Ohio along the marsh area. That's the area where they breed. So you'll learn that call within 10 feet of being on the boardwalk because they are singing like crazy. It's the most widespread warbler in the US. This is a male. They're bright yellow, but the male has those red streaks on its chest going down on either side. Black eye. Female resembles the male, but she does not have the streaking on her breast. There are 2 different races for the yellow warbler. We get the eastern race in the spring, and occasionally we get the western/Alaskan race in the fall. It's more dull in color, but for our time period, the yellow warbler or the eastern race is the one that we see. But like I said, all over the boardwalk in Ohio, just perfect habitat, that marshy areas. Chestnut-sided warbler has a lovely call. Please, please, pleased to meet you. Kinda, sort of, Uh, it's one of the few warblers that benefits from human habitat change. They like to nest in brushy edges, areas like farm edges. They like that change in habitat. Um, this is a male, beautiful male, yellow cap, black and white eye pattern, and the little chestnut line down its side. The female is again, it's more subdued. It has the yellow cap. It doesn't have much of a chestnut side, but you can tell it's a chestnut-sided warbler, but just not as bright as the male. Prothonotary warbler. One is nearly always found near water. It's the only warbler that nests in a cavity. So it likes woodpecker holes, tree swallow holes, somebody that's built a hole for them. In the northern part, in our area in Ohio, the park systems will put up empty Metamucil jars with holes in them, and they'll nest in those. So you put up artificial nest boxes that they will use. Um, for 2 or 3 years in a row at McGee, we have, I mentioned the boardwalk. We have this mile-long boardwalk and with wooden railings and wooden posts. There was a spot in one of the posts that one of these nested in several years in a row. It's now opened up too much that it's not to their liking, but it's an easy one to see. It's what do I want to say now? It's song. It's a very loud one tone. Like I can't do it, but it's a very emphatic. Oh my gosh, it's like pounding on a glass or something. So when you hear them singing, you'll know, and you'll go nuts. The Blackburnian warbler, common name, common friendly nickname is the fire throat. That was coined by Robert Torrey Peterson. This one nests in the coniferous forest, so it's on its way through when it gets to Ohio. It sings from the treetops. Just a beautiful bird. One big wing bar and that yellow or to orange throat pattern. Just beautiful. Again, the females are a little less bright. The magnolia warbler. These are all males. Another beautiful bird, gray cap, yellow throat, yellow breast with these streaks like necklaces that have gone all the way down. We commonly refer to them as Maggies. They have a pretty distinct tail pattern. If you see the top right picture, if you're looking at a lot of warblers you see when you're looking up, you can see that tail pattern, the black, white, black pattern, and that's a giveaway. If you can't see anything else, you can see that tail pattern and you'll know that this is a magnolia warbler. Breeds in the northern coniferous forest, nesting in the top of small trees. Beautiful bird. The ovenbird. This is one of my, I have lots of favorites. So this is one that breeds in nests in leafy woodlands and in deciduous forests, dry leafy woodlands. It builds an oven-shaped nest on the ground, walks on the ground. They'll jump up and sing if you're in their territory, but by and large, you're going to find them foraging and walking on the ground. They're not hopping, they're walking. They look kind of like a thrush, but they've got those racing stripes down the top of their head, and that nice center stripe is a reddish orangish color. The song for this is teacher, 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 or teacher, 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 teacher. Depends on what it's emphasizing, but beautiful little bird. Now, here's a good one. This one showed up, about a month ago? Yeah, about sometime in February. This one shows up here in Florida and just starts singing away, the northern parula. This is the most adaptable and wide-ranging nester in the US. It nests in the Canadian spruce forests all the way down to the Florida swamps. You guys, I looked in my field guide last night, and Florida doesn't have too many warblers that nest here in the summer. This one does. It builds nests in either hangings, Spanish moss, or in the northern lichens, the hanging lichens up in the Canadian area. We saw one last week that was a female that was actually pulling silk out of a webworm, those tent caterpillar webs that it was apparently taking back to a nest. So it was working on nest building already. This song is a buzzy song that rises up to the end. Bzz. So this is a male, kind of a steel blue top, that olive patch on its back, yellow throat, yellow breast with the collar. Sometimes there's a little reddish in that throat area as well. Again, beautiful, beautiful bird. The female does not have the collar and is again a little more subdued, but cool birds. The black-throated blue warbler. I'm so lazy. This is the male. This one is just stunning. It does not change color in the fall. It stays like in this plumage year round. Bright or a very distinct blue, black, white. This warbler nests in the understory of mixed woodlands, so it's not a Canadian one. This particular warbler, though, has the most difference between the sexes. Here's the male, and the female looks like this. You want to look for, she's not terribly colorful, but she has that little white, I don't know if you can see my cursor, this little white spot on her wing. That's like the handkerchief spot. If you look, we'll go back to the male. He's got it, but there's nothing to surprise you about him. He's got it back here, that little handkerchief spot. But that's the one way to key her out, that's the female black-throated blue with that little handkerchief. She does have a little bit of an eye pattern, facial pattern, but you're looking for that handkerchief. And like I said, these guys have the most difference between the sexes. Cape May warbler. This is a nice male. They breed in the northern coniferous forest, nesting in the treetops. Black cap, orangish patch on its cheek, yellow, black stripes, single wing bar. Females look similar, but less so. We see these feeding a lot in the willows up along in the marsh there at McGee, and they come through. It's just a beautiful, beautiful bird. Here's another one that I'm pretty sure nests in Florida. Yeah, they've been here all winter. Very widespread, the common yellow throat. This is a male. Nests near the ground in dense marsh habitat. You hear them more than you see them. They have a very alarmish call that they'll chatter at you, and then occasionally they'll come up and check you out. But their song is a witchity, 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 witch. Here's the male. The female resembles the male, but she doesn't have the mask. So the yellow throat and the olive greenish back, both of them. She will chatter at you, but he does the singing. Okay, Tennessee warbler. This one's not a very bright and colorful bird, but boy, it has a beautiful song. It's a multi-part song and it's very loud. I won't do it because I'd have to remember it, but you'll hear it singing and it's so hard to find because they're teeny and they're in a big tree, but they've got a very loud voice. It resembles, in my view, when I'm looking at other birds, it resembles a Philadelphia vireo, that olive back, whitish, creamy belly, gray cap. It's just smaller. So one year on the boardwalk, we found both and said, oh, well, you could look at the size difference. This one breeds in the northern coniferous forest, nests along the edges of swamps and bogs. It winters in tropical forests where this is pretty cool. It eats and drinks nectar after piercing the flowers down there. There's a whole group of birds called flower piercers, and it does the same thing in the wintertime when it's in the tropics. When it's up in its breeding territory, it strictly eats insects, mainly spruce budworms, which then helps the spruce trees because it's trying to get rid of those, or it's eating the bugs that are affecting the trees. The black-polled warbler. This is a cool one too. This is the male, has a black cap, black and white pattern, huge nesting range from Alaska to Newfoundland, all across the northern hemisphere there, all in the northern coniferous forest. It winters in South America, in Brazil, in the Amazon, flies over 3,000 miles to get between its breeding and wintering territories. The longest songbird migration of any songbird. I found out last fall, we do these Road Scholar trips in the fall, and we go to McGee Marsh, and from the banding data that BSBO has gathered, they used to think that the black-polled warblers all moved over to the East Coast in the fall and flew from there down to Brazil. Now they're thinking that more of them come to this western basin of Ohio and take off from there. Some major percentage of the birds that are going south use Ohio as their stop off place to refuel before they head south. It's just amazing, just very cool. Now, I mentioned early that you wanted to make sure you looked at certain things, and this is one of the birds you want to look at their feet. This one, if you can see, has kind of a yellowish orange feet. That's important in the fall because it looks a whole lot like another bird, and you have to look at feet color to kind of determine which is which. So in the spring, no problem. This is a nice, beautiful black poll. The female doesn't look a lot like the male. In fact, the male looks a lot like the female in the fall, but her feet are not quite as bright, but has that orangish colored feet. And like I said, we'll get to the next one in just a minute. So now we're going on to the third wave. I was doing clip art and I couldn't find a 3, so we're just waving. So waving as we go into the third wave. The bay-breasted warbler. This one, I'll get to its feet in just a minute. Anyway, it's a northern coniferous forest nester, mid-level forager. It's a pretty good sized bird, and it's fairly slow as it forages compared to most warblers. So it's easy to get your eye on this one and to watch it as it's foraging through the treetops. it has extremely similar plumage to the black-poll warbler, the males, in the fall. You see this back pattern. They both have that black and gray stripe, but they look a lot like that female black-poll warbler. And you have to look at, if you can't get anything else, you look at the feet. The black-poll has black feet. Or I'm sorry, the bay-breasted has black feet. The black-poll has yellow orangey feet. Now, in the fall, if you don't get a look at their feet, we call these bay polls because there's no way to tell them apart if you don't get a good view at that. And a bunch of these are moving through and you're like, well, that's a black poll and that's a bay breast, but I don't know about that one. That's got to be a bay poll. So cool bird. American redstart. These are pretty interesting too. This is one of the most abundant and widespread songbirds in the Northern Hemisphere. It's considered a model species for observation because it's easy to find. It's not way up high, it's not way down low. It's in the deciduous forests. It's singing like crazy. So it attracts a lot of attention. You can study it. The male sings, the female does not. Now, when birds fledge, the young birds fledge, well, let me show you the female. Here's the female. Subdued, has kind of that tail pattern that the male has and a little wing pattern. But the young that when they hatch, they look like the female, even the males. And it takes the male, the young male, into its second year, its after hatch year, to finally get its adult male plumage. So we'll go birding in the spring and we'll see these, what look like females, and they're singing. The females don't sing. But the adult males are chasing away other adult males. They don't realize that this young singing, what looks like a female, is a male. So these young males have an advantage of breeding with the females because the adult males are not chasing them away. It's kind of a crazy thing that they can take advantage of until they develop their adult plumage. But again, kind of a cool thing that happens. Like I said, this is the female. They have the redstarts have a really cool foraging habit of flitting its wings and flashing its tail, opening its tail and wings because it flushes to flush the insects up that it can catch. And both the male and the female will do that. And you'll see them when they're foraging that they will do that. They'll try to make the insects fly up for them. Canadian warbler. This one nests in dense, moist undergrowth in the coniferous forest. It's an active forager chasing insects. It's not very bright. It's got this solid gray back, this nice collar, yellow belly, underbelly, and a nice white eye ring. They usually are coming through after the leaves have all come out. We've had we had some warm weather last week or so, and so I know we're going to have an early leaf out, and it'll be tough to find these guys. We do our best to get people on them because it's a highly sought after. Everyone likes to see a Canada warbler because they're just beautiful and cool, but it gets a little tougher as the season goes in. The Wilson's warbler, not too much exciting about this one. It's all yellow with the olive colored back, but it's got that nice black cap. The female has a hint of that, but otherwise resembles the male. Here's another northern nester, primarily around bogs. Its feeding habit, though, is similar to flycatchers, where it'll fly out and catch an insect and come back. The mourning warbler is one of the skulkers. There are a couple of warblers that are skulkers. What do I mean by that? It forages down low in the shrubbery, and it doesn't come out unless it's on territory. It'll sing like it's heart out if it's on territory. Otherwise, it is down low, out of sight. It's highly sought after because of that habit. This is a male. It has that nice gray head hood that comes down to a black, like a black bib. And that's yellow olive. That's its characteristics. It prefers to nest in brushy habitat, like along edges of clear cuts and forest edges. It's uncommon in Ohio. It migrates through, but it doesn't nest too much in Ohio. I went birding with a new birder a couple of years ago, one of my neighbors, and by the time we got to the boardwalk was later in like mid-May, these guys were all over the place. And I said, this never happens. You have to really work to get this guy. And it was like, okay, well, I got 6 of them. That was fun. Yeah. Now, here's the major skulker. See that white eye ring? It resembles a Nashville to a point, but with the gray hood. Connecticut's are tough. It's another one that comes through when the trees are all leafed out. It's very elusive. It's, like I said, it's a skulker. It's a late migrant. The BSBO data has determined that the best time to try for it is May 20th through the 27th. It does show up every once in a while outside of that range, but that's usually the normal time that you can at least try for. It took me until about 3 years ago to find this one. And it was on May 24th, right in that range. It has a very loud song, but again, it's hard to spot because the trees are all leafed out. It nests in the northern muskeg bogs up in the Upper Peninsula is an area, tamarack and blue spruce habitat. I'd always been told, they're so hard to find, you'll have to go up and go on their territory. Well, to get to their territory, you've got to walk through this buggy stuff that's really mosquito laden, and yeah. So I was happy when it came through my area and I finally found it. They do migrate through in the fall. This is a picture from a couple of years ago where we banded several because they were migrating through. It's a very large warbler. It's similar in size to the pine. And like I said, has that major eye ring. Oh, overflight species. These are essentially southern nesters that occasionally get blown off course. And everybody gets excited when they show up. The Louisiana water thrush. I saw one of these yesterday. It nests in southern Ohio. It rarely comes up to northern Ohio where I am. Another tail bobber. It's not quite as streaky as the northern water thrush, and it has, if you notice, that really pretty white throat. The northern water thrush has more speckly, stripy things on its white throat. It's a ground walker. It likes to forage along the ground, and it prefers running water as opposed to standing water. The northern water thrush likes standing water. The Louisiana likes water that's moving. It builds its nest near the water. And in addition to insects, it also eats small crustaceans that it gets out of the water. Has this call like the northern water thrush that sounds like a ventriloquist. Hard to find, but nice calls. The worm-eating warbler. This one nests in southern Ohio too. Occasionally we get them in the north, but it's like I said, it's an overshoot. It likes mature southern forests. It's more of a southeast US up into the southern part of Ohio. Has a thin, dry trill song like a bug, like an insect. Um, Big bill. Look at that bill. Nothing exciting about it, but it's got those like football stripes on its head. Here's another tail bobber, the prairie warbler. Saw one of these yesterday. They are just beautiful birds. Um, it nests on or near the ground in much of the eastern U.S. Southern Ohio, not in northern Ohio where I am. Very scrubby habitat on clear cut edges, and when the clear cuts are starting, a clear cut is where, you know what that is, where they come in and cut all the trees down, and then the underbrush and young trees start to grow back. It likes to come in and nest in that undergrowth area, that's shrubby area. The song is an upward trill, like a two tone per note, kind of call song. Beautiful black streaking stripes, yellow body, has a little bit of a reddish, orangish hint on the back of its neck or upper back. I heard this one today over near Okahumpha Rec Center, the yellow-throated warbler. It occasionally comes up into northern Ohio, but it's a mid-Ohio and southeastern U.S. nester. It has the longest bill of the warblers, probably just by a fraction. Frequently found foraging and nesting in sycamore trees. Likes to be near water where the sycamores are, and that's the first time I saw one was foraging along the branches of a sycamore tree. And it will come to feeders. It comes to my dad's feeder in southern Ohio. Go figure. Not quite sure if it's going after bugs or what, but we've seen it there. The Kentucky warbler. This is another deep woodlands nester, another southern Ohio bird for us. It has this very loud galloping kind of song. Ga-dum, 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 ga-dum. It's pretty shy. It's another skulker. It winters in the tropics, feeding on insects that are flushed by ant swarms. I was in Panama a number of years ago, and you went out looking for ant swarms because there's this whole family of birds that go after the bugs that are jumping out of the way of the ant swarms. And this guy does the same thing. When it's down there in the wintertime, it's looking for ant swarms and the bugs jumping away. Has that nice olive back. It's all yellow underneath, but it has those black Elvis sideburns that come down, a very distinct face pattern. A couple of years ago, we had a lone Kentucky warbler that came up to a park near me, sang all through early summer, was all there by itself. It was an easy bird for us to go get, but no female had come up with it, and it didn't come back the next year, unfortunately. The hooded warbler, this one does come up into northern Ohio, but it's a more of a woodlands nester, deep woodlands. Its song it resembles weeda weeda weedio, weeda weeda weedio. This is the male, that black hood, white or yellow face, yellow, olive, nothing else. The female has a little bit of a hood, but not nearly as bright as the males. Okay, now we have a handful of play the lottery birds. The Quitlands warbler, we do get a few of these coming north. This is one of the rarest warblers. It was on the endangered list from 1967 to 2019, so it was taken off. Because it has very extreme and specific nesting habitat requirements. It nests in dense stands of young jack pine which is a scrubby, short-lived conifer that thrives in sterile, sandy soils. That's a pretty small specialty there. The tree is a fire specialist, so it needs fire to come through occasionally so that it will open its cones and send out seeds. And you know what happened? Well, you remember as we were growing up, Smokey the Bear said, forest fires are bad. So they tried to control all those forest fires, and to the detriment of things they weren't even considering, like Kirtland's warbler. So by suppressing fire and also being predated on by brown-headed cowbirds, this bird tanked big time. You know what a cowbird does? Goes in, finds a nest, lays its eggs, lays an egg and goes off. That leg usually hatches first or soon after, and it grows faster than the young of the native bird, kicks those babies out, and the native bird raises a cowbird and not their own. So this Kirtland's was affected by both of those things. It nests on the ground. There's a couple of nesting details among the lichen and blueberries that grow beneath these pine trees. And it also is a tail bobber. So just that sort of thing. So let's look. There's this really good book out by Scott Weidensaul called, Scott's a naturalist, author, wonderful guy, written a bunch of good books, birding type themes. In 2021, he wrote this book called The World on the Wing, The Global Odyssey of Migratory Birds. I went to a program by Scott, and I read this before I went to his program, and he has this whole chapter on Kirtland's warblers. So I asked him if I could use this image. This image came from his book, and he was thrilled to death. So why that I would ask and want to use his picture. So why is this bird so rare? It breeds in a very small area in the upper lower peninsula, this core breeding range where this big star is. That's the only spot, something later, where their main breeding area is. Then they winter in a few islands in the Bahamas. That's it. Very small location. So no wonder their numbers went down. There's a little bit of a breeding population in Wisconsin, which is good, so that helps. But their numbers have improved because the federal and state agencies that manage the forests in upper lower Michigan have been managing the forest to help the Kirtland's warbler. Each year, there's about 150,000 acres of forest that is being in this area that they're working on. Each year, about 4,000 acres of mature jack pine is clear cut and then replanted with 5 to 7 million seedlings, leaving small grassy openings every 30 or 40 yards in all directions, with a few dead, scattered snags for perching and some pin oaks interspersed. So that's, you got to be thinking about all these things as you're managing this. An ideal plot for the Kirtlands is pine trees, these jack pines that are 6 to 12 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet apart, and they repeat this clear-cut replant thing about every 15 years, because if it gets to a certain height, the birds won't use them. They won't come. So they have to constantly be in rotation of managing these forests. And in addition, they have controlled the cowbird population by trapping, and I'm assuming euthanizing. They had just to save this bird. There's an area, little town in this area called Mayo, Michigan, that actually has a statue for the Kirtland's warbler. It's pretty cool, right in their downtown park. But you can find tours through the State Audubon Society that will take you out to the Kirtland warbler habitat and see them. It's a pretty cool tour to see, and it's a pretty good success ratio. I think a friend of mine told me once that the birds had gotten down to as many as you could put in a shopping bag. That's it. That's how many were still living. Now we have a few more. So several shopping bags. So 4,500 birds, enough to take them off the list. Another lottery ticket bird for Ohio is the Swainson's warbler. This one is a southern nester. I go into Kentucky to see this one. Occasionally it comes into Ohio, but I don't think we ever have any records that it nests here. It's the least common of the eastern wood warblers. It's very secretive, nests in deciduous forests, preferring dense undergrowth foliage like rhododendron tangles. If you've been in the areas where rhododendron is thick, that's what it likes. It sings on territory, and it is another one of those singers that sounds like it could be anywhere. It's a beautiful little, well, like beautiful. No, it's browns and tans, but it's still a cool. This one, the Connecticut was my last warbler to get. This was probably the one before that one. We do have a few records in Ohio. 5 have been accepted since 1991. The most recent was in 2021. But again, very reliable in Kentucky. Here's a southwest species that occasionally shows up in Ohio, the black-throated gray warbler. I see these in Arizona. I go to Arizona to see some of these. But Ohio has had about at least 12 records. 9 of them were accepted since 1991, including 2 individuals at McGee in 2018. Sorry. I actually saw both of those, which was pretty crazy that there were 2 there on the same day. Kind of resembles, well, I don't know. It has this little yellow spot up here by the bill, but everything else is black, white, and gray. A year ago, one showed up in Cleveland. This was December 2023. It stayed for 3 weeks, left in early January of 2024. In Cleveland, it showed up. It's crazy. A lot of my friends went over to see it. I was probably madly doing stuff to get ready to come down here, so I didn't go. Another west-southwestern species that sometimes shows up in Ohio is the Townsend's warbler. There's another one I see down in Arizona. The first record in Ohio was in 1973. This one, photographed here, was from April of 2023. It was a one-day wonder, and one of my photographer friends from Toledo just happened to be on the boardwalk and got this picture. Just very brief visit, but Ohio in the spring is one of those places where lots of people are out looking. This one, yeah, buy a lottery ticket on this one. This is another southwestern species. We've only had one recorded visit to Ohio, which was in Cuyahoga County, which is where Cleveland is, November of 1970. So it's been a while. But go to Arizona to see this one. All right. We have, oh, yeah, one more to talk about. This is my +1. No longer a warbler. But if you have an old field guide, it's going to be lumped in with the warblers. This is the yellow-breasted chat. In 2017, the lumpers and splitters finally decided that they were going to give it its own family. The American Ornithological Society split the chat from the warbler family and it's its own single species in the Ictiterae family. It performs this, it's a beautiful bird. It's much bigger than warblers. So it's closer now with the blackbird families, is where they've moved it. But it performs this wild courtship display, and it sings a whole variety of squawks and quacks and it just makes a whole mixture of sounds. They're cool to find. And they do nest in my area. I know we see them here occasionally. I don't think they nest here, but I see reportings of people seeing chats down here. It's a cool bird, but I only throw this in because it used to be lumped in with the warblers. Why not? Let's talk about him. Okay, we have a little bit of a quiz. So I have 5 pictures I'm going to show you, and if you want to just put your answers into the chat box, you can. I want you to tell me species and sex. And I will, let's see, let's go to the first one. How should I just open this? Chat, show chat.
I think if anybody has an answer, you can just type it in the chat and it should pop up.
Right. So what do you think? Conceive. Anybody written anything? This shows me putting it in. Anybody
I'm trying to see.
said anything yet? I can open the chat window to put in a chat. Somebody just
I am typing so that came through.
show. I can't see it. We won't use the chat. Go just unmute yourself and tell me what you think this is.
They might not be able to do.
Can you do that? Maybe not. How about if I'll just go through and.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't think I can unmute everybody, and
That's
the host has to do it.
So, quiz bird number 1. I do this quiz for Rhodes Scholar, and then we go around the room, and whoever gets the least answers right gets a nice field guide for warblers. And those that get the most right gets another. We have prizes for those best answers and least answers. So this is a yellow rump warbler, a male, and you can tell it's a male because it's got that white throat. It's got the nice face patch. The female would be less colorful as this one. It's a little tough, but that's the male yellow rump. There's your nice yellow rump. Butterbutts, we call these butterbutts. All right. The next one. This is that one that okay. You want to look at this little handkerchief. This is the female black-throated blue. Beautiful little bird. All right. Here's the third one. This is the male Cape May warbler. Nice big white patch with that orangish cheek patch. Here's my trick question. This bird would be singing. It looks like a female redstart, but look, it's starting to get black here. It's starting to get black here. The tail looks like it's starting to get black. This is one of those birds that is nesting or mating with the female redstarts, and the adult males are leaving it alone because they think it's a female. They're not trying to chase it away. So this is a male, a young male, after hatch year male American redstart. And this is a black and white female. Less colorful. The male has a lot more black streaking going here and in the face. This is the female, black and white. So I thank you for inviting me. I've got to give a nod to some of my photographer friends. Our bander that used to give the talk got 90% of these photos from Brian Zwiebel, who's a professional photographer. He leads some of the photography tours with Saber Wing Nature Tours.
Oh,
Lives up near McGee Marsh, and then my other buddies here. So, what do we want to do? Do we want
I'm
to?
gonna say, well, I'm gonna say thank you to Tammy. If anybody has any questions, and if you're able to get up to McGee, is it Maggie?
McGee Marsh.
Marsh in Ohio. Tammy's up there, and she's a great contact, and she's really good about kind of putting people in touch with the people up there if you want to see people. I know there's several people going from down in this area and the
There's a-
villages
right.
area.
Right.
There's a whole group going up. So it's an awesome place to go for a week or
Right.
I guess it's like what is it, a 3-week period, really? That I don't
Yeah,
know. It's called the greatest week, but
the biggest week in American
Yeah.
birding. It's a 10-day festival, but before, after, a lot of it is weather related. We like southern winds to blow things up. You know, you can have all the great birds, and then a cold northeast wind comes in and all the birds stop somewhere. So
watch the weather.
yeah, we are weather watchers, and you watch that bird cast that shows you what's coming up when, and but there's a nice area.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
all right.
I was going to ask if anybody has questions, we can go ahead and post them in the chat group. Otherwise, yeah, thank you so much
Let me
for
go back to
joining
here.
us.
Okay, I've stopped sharing my screen.
And here's the chat right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you can either put some questions in the
I don't